our story starts with a duchess. On the surface, she has everything. A member of the prestigious Duke Williote family with stunning beauty and a handsome fiancé named Fennel. Our duchess, whose name is Layla, loves her position. Marrying into a family known as the Sword of the Empire is gonna have some pretty sweet perks after all. Plus, she's been playing her cards just right, acting as the sweet, doting daughter-in-law of the current Duke and Duchess who already adore her. Which is a surprise since she doesn't come from a particularly impressive background herself. Despite being a poor local noblewoman, the Williote family took her in and showered her with food, luxury, and love. In fact, they gave her so much of it that their real son Fennel started to get jealous. You see, he's not exactly their pride and joy. Fennel's parents were hoping that Layla would come along and teach him how to be a proper duke, well-mannered and hard-working. And for the last few months, their tactics seem to have been working. Fennel is taking his swordsmanship training more seriously, though that also means they haven't had much of a chance to get to know each other. Even so, Layla was always sweet to him, and he was kind enough in return. They're not exactly soulmates, but they get along and joke around with each other. And if you've read even just one manhwa before, you already know how rare that is. Layla's life was almost perfect. Little did she know, disaster was waiting just around the corner. On one stormy day, she was working in her office, worrying about how the heavy rain must be affecting the people of the dukedom. Turns out it wasn't the commoners she needed to worry about. The Duke and Duchess themselves got into an accident due to the rain, and just like that, her fairy tale ended. Both Layla and Fennel were crushed. Though their parents were rushed to a doctor's right away, they did not survive. The title of Duke was formally passed down to Fennel, who fell into a deep depression and gave up all his time to training. That left Layla to handle all the affairs of the dukedom. Still mourning the Duke and Duchess, they didn't feel it was right to go ahead with their wedding and postpone their marriage, slowly drifting apart. One day, the Emperor announced a conquest of the mainland, and Fennel was sent to war. No one realized how long it would wage on for, but after 6 long years, the Duke is due to meet his wife once more. As you'd expect, things have changed a lot in the last few years. For one, Layla isn't used to dressing up or wearing makeup, so it's a bit overwhelming to have the maids fussing in preparation for Fennel's arrival. She spent most of her time fighting off crop failure and disease, trying to keep the people safe and looked after them in her fiancé's absence. Like any girl, Layla's hoping the two of them will reunite, finally get married, and everything will be perfect. Right? Wrong. Because when Fennel rides in through the front gates, he's carrying another woman in his arms. Yikes. I think it's safe to say he didn't spend the last 6 years missing Layla. As if that wasn't bad enough, she's beautiful. Not that Layla isn't pretty, but this girl is blonde, curvy, has gorgeous skin, and is that a pregnant belly? Oh god, this is every girl's worst nightmare. The maids are already starting to gossip. Fortunately, Layla's personal maid, Misha, is kind enough to reassure her. This is all probably just a misunderstanding, right? Layla watched her fiancé approaching, desperately hoping that's the case. But what if it's not? What if that woman really is carrying his child? Are they destined to be enemies for life, forced to live in the same house as both mistress and wife? But then again, they're not even married yet. What if she's the one who gets kicked out? I know I'd already be panicking if I were her. Layla's hands are still shaking as Fennel steps down from his horse, commenting that everyone seems to have stiffened up while he was away. He also jokes that Layla must have forgotten how to speak. Boy, he's got some nerve to be making jokes like that. It almost seems like he can't read the situation. Layla watches him lift the blonde girl bridal style to the ground, wrapping an arm around her shoulder and completely ignoring Layla. Well, there goes any hope of a misunderstanding. At least the servants are on her side. Everyone is outraged that he would parade his mistress so openly in front of the woman who was meant to be his wife. But it gets worse. As he's about to head inside, he asks Cicely, the blonde girl, what kind of room she'd like to stay in. She wants somewhere with a lot of light, so he orders the servants to prepare the last room in the eastern corridor, the former Duchess's chamber. Now that's out of line. Layla thinks he might not understand how serious that room is, so she tries to explain. No one can use the former Duchess's chamber except another Duchess. Even Layla hasn't slept in it. But Fennel won't hear a word she has to say. He's the Duke, and what he says goes. On his order, a fleet of maids is prepared to take Cicely up to her new room so that she can rest after the long journey. Once Layla is left alone with her fiancé, he asks if she's mad. Of course she's mad, you idiot! What kind of woman wouldn't be? Not only has he been cheating on her, but he's humiliated her in front of the entire house staff. and he doesn't even seem to care. Ignoring every atom in her body, Layla swallows her anger and acts like everything is fine. She doesn't have much choice. Even if she starts screaming, crying, making a scene, it's not like anything will change. Her place here is secondary. It always has been. With a heavy heart, she orders Misha to take good care of their new guest, though she asks her to report back anything strange that she might witness. After that, she goes back to work in her office, though there's something bittersweet about it now. She spent 9 years working for the Willio household, keeping track of their expenses, their citizens, approving and finalizing documents the way a duke would. People actually gave her a hard time when she first started, because they didn't think she had the right to take Willio affairs into her own hands. But over time, she proved herself with her work ethic and dedication to perfection. Now it seems she's been taken for granted by everyone, including her fiancé. She's just finishing up the last document of the day when a clap of thunder strikes outside. Ever since the Duke and Duchess's accident, she's been terrified of storms. She wonders if Fennel feels the same, but let's be honest, he probably didn't even notice. That jerk. Eventually, she gets called in for dinner. Her mood has picked up a bit. She's determined to have a nice meal with her fiancé and try to reconnect. Her maid Misha is clearly furious about how the Duke has acted so far, which is kind of cute. At least the staff are on her side. Since the moment Fennel returned, the mansion has been chaos. Servants are rushing in every direction, but there's one in particular who catches her attention. A young girl is taking an entire dinner cart straight to the Duke's chambers. Apparently, he decided to dine in his room. Now that's really crossing the line. It's the Willio family tradition. Heck, any family tradition to have dinner together after a long time apart. That's just basic. After almost 10 years working for his family, she's been cast aside in a matter of hours. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the cart is clearly more than one person's portion of food. Trembling, Layla asks the maid, who confirms her suspicions. The Duke is having dinner with Cicely, his new guest. That's it. Let me at him. That man needs a lesson or two in basic decency. Layla goes straight back to work to distract herself, still trying to keep it together. A butler comes rushing in with a document that requires approval urgently. Traditionally, the Duke should be the one to approve it, but since he's busy playing around with his lady friend, he came to her. Looks like it's time for Layla to put her foot down. With a stern expression, she tells him clearly, from now on, things that need the Duke's attention should go straight to the Duke. Why the heck should she do his work while he's messing around with other women? If he wants to call himself a Duke, then he better start acting like one. After drawing a line of her own, Layla takes herself off for a nice bath and some downtime. But yet again, the butler comes to find her with those urgent documents he mentioned. Layla tells him exactly the same thing she said earlier, bring them to the Duke instead. A little flustered, the butler goes to Fennel's quarters with the documents. The Duke is just as bewildered as him. He's probably never done this kind of paperwork in his life. He asks why Layla isn't doing it, and the butler explains that she was only taking over his role while he was away. He points out that she was responsible for this kind of work even before he was called up for service, which is technically true, but only because he shut himself in the training grounds and refused to take on his father's responsibilities. Gosh, he's such a child! Cicely comes over, somehow glowing even brighter than before, and interrupts their conversation. Clearly, she has no respect for the way a dukedom is run and starts complaining about how bored she is. Then go find something to do, lady. She is so shameless. Fennel softens as soon as he sees her and starts making a fuss about how she's pregnant and shouldn't be on her feet for too long. He pushes the butler toward the door, refusing to do the work and telling him to take them back to Layla. Oh boy, is this how things are going to be from now on? Once the doors are closed, Fennel and his lady friend start talking about Layla, specifically how the fiancés seem to know each other well. Of course they've known each other since they were young, so naturally they don't use honorifics with one another. Cicely, being the snake that she is, suggests that Layla should be using honorifics with him, even if they're close. Their statuses are different. He's the Duke and she's, well, who even knows what she is anymore? Basically, she's trying to put distance between the two of them and humiliate Layla even further. At least now we know there's no misunderstanding. She sure is a snake, all right. Meanwhile, the butler returned to Layla, who begrudgingly accepted the document approval. She knew he'd refuse, but she can't keep doing this forever. It's the duty of the Duke's family to take on these responsibilities. Technically, she shouldn't be allowed to do it herself. While she's finalizing the details, another crack of thunder comes down from the sky. She hands back the document with shaky hands, and when the butler disappears, she hides in her covers. In times like these, she misses Misha, who's been by her side since she was a child and always comforted her in thunderstorms. In case you're wondering why she's absent right now, she's watching in horror as Cicely snuggles up with the Duke. She says she's afraid of thunderstorms, which I don't believe for a second, so Fennell promises to stay the night and keep her company. Yuck! Has he completely forgotten about his own parents' death? Seriously, what is wrong with this dude? Misha is only too happy to get permission to leave. Just as she reaches the door, Cicely starts complaining about muscle aches. The Duke offers medicine, but she wants something more. She wants a massage. Judging by the look on her face, Misha would rather do a whole day's worth of scrubbing before she puts her hands on Cicely. She tries to excuse herself by saying that she's not a good masseuse. But Fennell won't hear a word. He orders her to massage Cicely's belly, leaving Layla alone and scared on the other side of the mansion as the storm rages on. Ugh, this is so unfair. Does anyone else just want to slap them both? No? Just me? The next morning, Fennell surprises Layla with a visit to her chambers. It's for work-related reasons, obviously. They just received an invitation for the new Emperor's enthronement festivities, which will be taking place next month. It will be held in the capital, which is a 4 days ride from the Willio Duchy. That leaves her a lot to do and not a lot of time. She'll need to contact a tailor ASAP, get the right shoes and accessories. Not to mention the gifts they'll need to offer the Emperor. As Layla is discussing all of this with her fiancé, he coldly cuts her off and tells her to start using honorifics with him. Ouch! He passes it off the same way Cicely did, as a status thing, but it's obviously an attempt to erase their past and all the history between them. Layla agrees, but only on the condition that he do the same. In public, they'll have to refer to themselves as Duke Willio and Lady Thebesa, and she wants a private designer to come and tailor her dress. Surprisingly, Fennell also agrees to this because he wants to use the same designer to dress Cicely. Yup, he's actually planning to bring his pregnant mistress to the capital. Wasn't the whole honorifics thing about people not looking down on him? What the heck are they gonna think when they see him with her? He also tells Layla that she should give in for their guest and let Cicely get fitted for a dress. That way they can save money and Layla can just wear one of hers. After that little comment, things get a little heated. Layla can't believe he still thinks of her as a lady of this house after everything he's done. But in Fennell's mind, there's no question that she'll still become his wife one day. The only reason Cicely got pregnant was because of a night of passion, and now he's just doing his duty by not abandoning the child. He even promises to kick Cicely out of the mansion after the baby is born. Oh wow, he's even worse than we thought! His promises don't reassure Layla one bit. That child will stick around long after Cicely is gone, and by then there'll be no hope of love between Layla and Fennell. Over the next few days, our poor protagonist is haunted by the gossiping of the servants, wondering if she'll be kicked out once the Duke's illegitimate child is born. In a weird way, she's starting to make her peace with things. It's not like she came into this engagement expecting love in the first place. She just wanted to be free of her family. Things might almost be okay if she didn't have to see Cicely around the mansion. Unfortunately, she seems determined to butt in, acting all innocent and introducing herself formally as Cicely Heliote. Which suddenly rings a bell. The Heliote family belongs to the royal lineage of the Mulis Kingdom, who surrendered to the Empire not long ago. That makes her a princess. Well, it would've, but since her kingdom was defeated, she would be given the status of commoner or even lower in the Empire. But somehow, she has the nerve to call Layla Miss and not Lady. Misha gets so angry on her behalf that she steps in to scold her. But even when she's riled up, Layla still has to act like the lady of the house, so she apologizes on her behalf and politely excuses herself. There's a letter waiting for her when she returns to her office. A letter from her mother, Countess of Thebesa. Full disclosure, Layla and her mother are not on good terms. She says she's dropping by for a visit tomorrow, which is obviously not welcome news. But since there's nothing they can do to stop her, they'll have to prepare. Before they can even lift a finger, another maid comes running in to announce that Cicely has fainted. Of course she has. What convenient timing. The doctor is summoned at once, and apparently Fennell is already on his way. After checking in on Cicely's condition, Lady Layla wants to head back and start those preparations. But who should storm in right at that moment accusing her of making Cicely faint? Fennell, of course. Outraged, Layla insists she didn't say anything upsetting, but he doesn't believe it. He even grabs her by the shoulders and slams her against the wall. He threatens that if anything happens to Cicely or the baby she's carrying, he'll make her regret it. Then he storms out without another word, leaving poor Layla to sink to the ground as the maids watch in shock. This is heartbreaking, and it's also a turning point. Now we know not to trust what he said earlier. The Duke clearly has stronger feelings for Cicely than we thought. And if that's true, then Layla's position might be in danger, like, for real. The next day, Cicely wakes up in perfect health. Surprise, surprise. As she promised, Countess Thebesa makes her visit. Layla greets her with a flawless fake smile, and her mother does the same. They exchange pleasantries, acting perfectly sweet to one another until they're behind closed doors. Once the servants are gone, her mother immediately asks if someone is trying to take her spot. How do mothers always know? Somehow she found out about Fennell's mistress. Looks like the servants' gossip finally escaped the mansion. She even knows about Cicely's ties to the defeated kingdom of Mulis. Hoping to secure her daughter's future and keep their family name clean, the Countess gives her daughter 2 potions. One to make pregnancy easier and one to erase it. Just 1 drop is enough to cause a miscarriage. All she would need to do is slip a bit into her tea. Of course, Layla's not a monster. She tells her mother to get out, trying to ignore her threats about the future. After the Countess leaves, she spends all day in bed, trapped inside her head. She doesn't want to hurt the baby. The baby is the only person in this whole mess who's innocent. But she can't deny that the child will ruin her future and maybe even force her to return to her horrible childhood home. Luckily, Misha appears to take her mind off things. The Emperor's celebration is in just 1 week and the seamstress has finally arrived. The only problem is, the Duke and Cicely got there first. Apparently, he wanted to teach her how to greet guests, which makes literally no sense. Wasn't she a princess? She knows how to do all that fancy etiquette stuff already. But Layla takes this as a much bigger blow. Welcoming guests into the mansion is a job for the lady of the house. Even if it is just practice, this is basically Cicely's way of establishing herself as the woman in charge and humiliating Layla for the 1000th time. Of course, the tailor doesn't bat an eye. He doesn't care so long as he's getting paid. Layla is so shocked that she almost faints. She tries to remind herself that she technically never was the lady of the house, so it's not like anything's been taken from her. Still, it's undeniably a threat. Misha is this close to kicking her out of the mansion, but that would only make things worse. The Duke would never allow it, and it would only draw more attention to Layla and her ever-lowering status. Mustering up all her courage, she heads to the drawing room where the tailor is displaying his designs. He's quite uncomfortable when he sees Layla. I mean, you can't blame him. The whole room goes cold whenever those fiancés are together. She cuts straight to the point, asking about the dress she ordered. Apparently, Cicely is having a look at it. Sounds like the perfect excuse for sabotage if you ask me. But Layla doesn't even consider foul play. The moment she sees Cicely, she goes rigid. She's wearing a dress that the former Duchess gave for Layla to wear when she got pregnant. She made it herself. It was a heartfelt gift from a mother to her daughter-in-law. If only she could see who was wearing it now. Finally, Layla loses her cool and starts yelling at Cicely. As we all knew he would, Fennell jumps in straight away to defend her, saying this was all his idea. But that's not totally possible. The dress was carefully stored at the very back of Layla's closet in her chambers. Did that bimbo sneak into her room and go through her stuff? This is insane! Fennell starts making all kinds of excuses. How could she greet the tailor without a dress to wear? He also claims that if Layla had just ordered a custom dress for Cicely like he'd asked her to, then she wouldn't have had to go and take something. Wow, this guy has some nerve. I don't know how she hasn't hit him by now. As if on command, Cicely turns on the waterworks, and suddenly all the attention is on her. She's so good at playing the victim, and Fennell just laps it up. It's pathetic, honestly. Layla watches the scene, feeling 1,000 worlds away from the house and the people she once knew. Defeated, she takes Misha and heads back to her chambers. After the tailor's visit, the rumor mill is hard at work, spreading gossip about how beautiful Cicely is and how cruel the future Duchess has been to the Duke's new mistress. Misha is upset on her behalf, but 1 week later, and Layla is in a weirdly good mood. She had a formal council meeting about handing over the workload to the Duke, and agreed that she would pass on all her duties after visiting the capital. When the day to make the journey finally comes, Layla wears a stony expression, determined not to let anything bother her. In fact, it's kind of relief when Fennell says he's going to share a carriage with Cicely. Imagine how awful it would be to watch the two of them ogling each other for 4 whole days. Still, she can't help but feel a little lonely, sinking feeling as she blocks them out, preparing for the road ahead. Luckily, the journey passes without much drama, and 4 days later, they arrive in the bustling heart of the Empire. Exhausted from her travels, all she wants to do is lie down and rest. But in the capital, just like in the mansion, rumors follow her everywhere. People immediately start to comment about how she was riding alone. As soon as they catch sight of Cicely, they realize what's happened. Not bothered to stay for the aftermath, Layla just follows Misha to her room. The first one is bright, spacious, and airy with a huge window. But since it rains so often in this part of the Empire, she swaps it for a smaller, more cozy room with a little less light. It's way cuter anyway. She's literally just doing what makes her comfortable, but Fennell, like always, finds a way to cause a problem. He thinks she's moved on purpose to the room right next to Cicely, which obviously she denies. While the two of them are bickering, his mistress cuts in smoothly with a solution. She'll just stay in Fennell's room. Oh, how perfect! I bet she was just waiting for the chance. It comes with the usual excuses about how she's scared to be alone in new places. I seriously can't believe Fennell is falling for this. How can he be both evil and stupid? She goes for a walk to clear her head, enjoying the sights the capital has to offer. Misha looks relieved to see her smile. It's not like she's had much chance to do so in the last few weeks. The truth is, Layla is still hiding her true emotions, even now. She's been seriously considering annulling the marriage. As any girl would, the only thing holding her back is her horrible family. She was pretty much abused as a child, and whatever treatment she suffered then will only get worse if she comes home with a failed engagement. She's still weighing it all up when they come across a pair of commoner girls tousling with a young man. He's clearly a thug. He doesn't seem the least bit intimidated when Layla tells him to back off. It's a good thing Layla isn't the type to scare easy. She makes him explain the situation. As he tells it, the older girl borrowed money from him 6 months ago and hasn't paid it back. Since she doesn't have the money, he wants to make her work off the loan instead. But it's not as simple as that. The little girl says he scammed them. Her sister borrowed just 30 gold and now he's asking for 500 back. What kind of interest rate is that? Layla doesn't need to point out that that's totally illegal. She sends Misha off to find some officers right away, which gets the man really riled up. He forgets all about the girls and lunges towards her, drawing a dagger. She's so scared she can't even move. When the dagger is inches from her face, a silver sword suddenly appears, slicing through the air and knocking the dagger out of the way. He's finally here, girls, our knight in shining armor, and boy is he a looker. I mean, seriously, that Fennell guy doesn't even compare to this one. He's also a real gentleman, holding her protectively and asking straight away if she's hurt. Before she can respond, the thug lunges again. But our blue-haired hero has lightning-fast reflexes. The man is disarmed and on the ground in a blink of an eye. In the end, he lets the criminal get off easy, running away like a coward. Was anyone else hoping Mr. Bluehair would teach him a lesson? At least no one got hurt, I guess. Once the danger has passed, Layla is left staring at her savior, trying to guess his identity. Not only is he handsome, but he gives off noble energy with his nice clothes and incredible swordsmanship skills. Yet Layla has no idea who he is. He calls her reckless and gently warns her not to put herself in danger like that again. If he hadn't turned up in the nick of time, she might have just been stabbed. At least, that's what he thinks. With one flick of the wrist, Layla has her fan at his throat, a silver blade poking out at the end of it. She may be a noble lady, but she's not defenseless. Although, let's be honest, the look in her eyes when that thug was about to strike her? I'm not so sure. Her blue-haired savior is impressed and apologizes for making assumptions, which already makes him better than like 50% of men. He's also very interested in her fan and asks where he can get one himself. Unlucky for him, it's the only one of its kind. Layla actually made it herself. After the former Duke and Duchess passed away, she was already pretty scared. Then Fennell was called to fight in the war, and Layla survived several attempted assassinations all by herself. That kind of thing forces you to take your self-defense pretty seriously. For a moment, she's worried the knight will judge her for it, but if anything, he's even more impressed. I guess most women in this world don't take extra steps to protect themselves. It is pretty badass. Fennell, on the other hand, has never been impressed by her. That's the first thing that jumps into her head, and it makes Layla feel guilty. Hurriedly wrapping up this interaction, she sets off to find the city guards. That thug may not have got the rest of his money, but he was still charging an illegal interest rate. He should be fined, at least. She bids her savior a polite goodbye. Misha is already obsessed with the man, talking about how brightly he's shone and how Layla might be like that when she becomes a duchess. Don't speak too soon, Misha. Now that Cicely's around, we don't even know if she can become duchess. When they arrive at the guard barracks, a very uninterested man gives them a form to fill out, completely ignoring Layla's concerns about increasing patrols on the streets to keep people safe. His tune completely changes when Layla threatens to take this matter all the way to the Emperor. He's all enthusiastic after that. On the way back, Layla notices that someone's following them. She turns around to find their blue-haired friend, who says he has a question to ask. Well, she's certainly caught his interest. But this lingering question is not about her name, her identity, or that fancy little fan of hers. It's actually about the interest rates that the thug was charging. It's not exactly common knowledge for a woman to know what the Empire's standard interest rates for businesses are. Plus, she knew what the fine was likely to be. That's not normal, especially for a noble woman. He's not wrong, but Layla gets a little offended. It's like rubbing salt in a familiar wound. Like how none of Fennell's family wanted her to continue running the estate even though she's done such a good job the last 6 years. This empire really isn't built for women. When she pushes him a little, Mr. Bluehair insists that he doesn't have a problem. He was just curious. Layla doesn't bother to explain her whole backstory to him. Why should she? She bids him goodbye and starts walking away, just as he mentions her name. Wait, how the heck did he figure out who she was? Did he see her name at the guard station or something? Or did he see the family crest on her fan? Layla is still thinking about him when she gets into bed that night. Misha reminds her that she's pretty famous in high society. It's not totally unusual for him to know of her, but they're still clueless as to their savior's identity. He was clearly pretty confident and had good manners, so I guess there's a chance she'll run into him at the coronation. At least, I hope she does. Fennell comes to visit her at the townhouse a little while later. And look at that, he's brought a gift. Is he hoping that little box is somehow going to fix the holes he's poked in their engagement? He even tries to call her by her first name, but Layla quickly puts him back in his place. He makes a comment about how inflexible she is, even though he was the one who asked them to stop using names in the first place. He's so ridiculous. He then makes an even ruder comment about how talking with her hurts his head. That one stings a little, mainly because it reminds Layla of when they were younger, and Fennell used to say how fun it was when they talked together. How times have changed. Just the memory makes her tear up, and Fennell notices. He reaches to wipe them away, but Layla rejects the gesture, pushing him away. That's when he presents her with the box of a chocolate cake that was personally recommended to him by the baker. Despite herself, Layla is impressed, until he reveals he bought it for Cicely. Wow, seriously? Has this guy never interacted with a girl before? How does he not expect that to make her upset? The more we read, the more shocked I am that he even pulled Cicely in the first place. Fennell brings the cake to his baby mama, who is putting on her very best cutesy performance, acting like this is the best cake she's had in her whole life. She asks if Layla got a cake too, and makes up this whole story about how she feels rude not to share. Apparently, there's some custom in her kingdom about sharing good food. I don't believe that for a second. This girl knows exactly what she's doing. When the same cake box shows up at Layla's door a few hours later, she seems a little relieved. She doesn't even like cake, but it seems like Fennell felt bad about leaving her out and went back to buy the same one. Imagine her horror when she opens the box to see Cicely's leftovers. Now that really is cruel. The butler tries to explain Cicely's whole spiel about custom and how it was meant to be a nice gesture. Oh, come on! Even he doesn't believe that. Layla can't decide whether to be humiliated or furious. She's probably a little bit of both when she orders the box to be taken away. She spends the rest of the evening alone, locked up in her room. This whole twisted power play with Cicely is starting to feel reminiscent of her childhood. The reason her mother, Countess Thebesa, was so horrible to her is because Layla was actually the result of her father's relationship with a concubine. She always took out her anger and jealousy on Layla instead, who was powerless to protest. And now, just like then, she can't do anything against Cicely or Fennell, who she still technically has a duty to since she's his fiancé. Although, if it was me, duty would be the last thing on my mind. I'd definitely have left that stupid man by now. Seeing her mistress so distraught, Misha tries to distract her with an activity. The upcoming celebration is the Emperor's first debut in noble society, you see. At noble debuts, it's customary for women to carry handkerchiefs embroidered for the ones they wish to marry. In fact, Layla has embroidered a handkerchief for Fennel before. She made one when he was summoned to war, with the crest of the Thebessa family on it. At the time, she enjoyed doing it for him, but now it's a matter of duty, and she's somewhat lost her skill in sewing over the last few years. She can't do most of the things women her age are trained for, like cooking, sewing, or even dancing. Even so, she puts her all into the handkerchief, staying up all night to finish it. Uh-oh. I feel like all this effort is going to backfire again. For some reason, the act of embroidering made her feel like a nervous schoolgirl. Once the sun has risen, Layla prepares to give the Duke her gift, her heart thumping in her chest. She spots him stepping out into the hallway and is about to offer the handkerchief when guess who comes running out? Cicely, of course, with a handkerchief of her own. See? I told you guys this was going to go wrong. The more effort she puts in, the more she gets burned. Embarrassed, Layla hides her handkerchief at once and takes a look at the one Cicely did. Without a doubt, the stitch work is much nicer and has Fennel's family crest on it instead. As if she wasn't showing it off enough, Cicely shows it to her. She acts like she was doing Layla a favor since she's not very good at stitching. Pretending she did it on Layla's behalf is just about the lowest blow she could have made, and it gets exactly the reaction she was hoping for. Layla can't hide her horrified reaction, but instead of sympathy, Fennel scolds her, saying she should be grateful to Cicely and that this kind of expression makes her seem pathetic. Why is everyone in this series so freaking mean? Like, that's not a normal thing to say to someone, let alone your fiancé. For once, Layla doesn't take it in silence. She reminds Cicely that no matter how much affection Fennel gives her, she will always be the mistress. That means her place is in the shadows, not stepping on the toes of the real lady of the house. Cicely does her usual performance, acting like she's too scared to even look at Layla, while Fennel does all the shouting for her. One quick glance at the servants, and they both realize they've gone too far. It's no good for their reputation to make a scene. So Layla takes a deep breath and tells him to do what he wants. But if he wears Cicely's handkerchief, he shouldn't bother pretending it was from her. Nice. Another mic drop moment for Layla, but at what cost? Furious, she storms out to the front of the house and jumps in the first carriage she sees, not caring that it's for the Duke. She orders them to take her somewhere calm and quiet. Meanwhile, Cicely is making an opportunity out of her absence, confessing her fears to the Duke. She's worried that one day Layla will take out her anger on the child and abuse it. Fennel gives her exactly the answer she wants to hear. If that happens, he'll kick Layla out at once. Great. This little cat is just sinking her claws in deeper and deeper. Layla, on the other hand, is crying quietly on a hillside above town, when who should find her but the blue-haired beauty from yesterday? What the heck is he doing here? Layla's so embarrassed to be caught like this and tries to wipe away her tears, but the knight catches her hand, using his handkerchief to wipe them away instead. See? This, ladies, is a true gentleman. He sits down beside her, doing his best to comfort this beautiful crying lady, even though he has no idea what's going on. And when her guard is down, he slips her a piece of strawberry candy. What a cutie. To her shock, he catches sight of the handkerchief box and eventually gets his hands on it, complimenting the pretty design. She tries to avoid all his questions, but this guy is sharp and notices all the little pricks and cuts on her hands from working at it all night. Since she seems determined to throw it away, he offers a suggestion. He'll take it instead. He couldn't possibly let something this pretty go to waste after all, not after she worked so hard on it. He bends down to give her hand a little kiss, making Layla go bright red. But there's no real reason he can't keep it if he wants to, so she lets the issue drop. He then starts asking her about a tax issue he's been having and wants her advice. Kind of a weird move, but it actually works. Layla isn't used to having someone value her opinion, and it's nice to take her mind off things for a while. They both have a pleasant conversation, and at the end, Layla finally asks about his name. He teases her about it, not giving her a straight answer and asking her to guess instead. After all, he managed to guess hers. Looks like it's her turn to return the favor. So Layla starts throwing out random names until she's gone through just about every young male lord in noble society. Frustrated, she asks for a hint, and he tells her to focus on his head. I guess he means that very unique hair color of his, or maybe those pretty blue eyes. He clearly thinks this is a pretty big hint, but Layla is still completely clueless. So he encourages her to figure out his name later, at the banquet that evening. Which makes sense. With that fancy outfit of his, he must be at least a baron. But just thinking about what's to come makes her quiet again. Mr. Blue-Haired Mystery notices the change in her expression and asks what's wrong. Is she not looking forward to the celebration? She admits that's true, but doesn't know how to explain herself. Her and Fennell's rocky relationship will be impossible to hide in front of all the other nobles. Especially if Fennell doesn't wear the handkerchief Cicely gave him, though it would be almost as bad if he did wear it, and then openly announce that it was made by his mistress. The whole situation is just one big mess no matter how you look at it. After tonight, everyone will know the truth. Fennell and Layla will be the main subject of gossip for months, if not years, and every social event will become a source of stress. As the thoughts begin to overwhelm her, Mr. Blue Hair reaches out, snapping her back to reality and commenting on how she bites her lip when she's worried. Layla nearly has a heart attack when she realizes how close his fingers are to her lip, but she hides her fear well. Sort of. She acts like she's just worried about making her social debut, which probably is playing on her mind aside from all the cheating fiancé stuff. Blue Hair reassures her that there'll be lots of nobles in the same boat tonight. The war delayed a lot of social events, so everyone will be nervous. It's a sweet thing to say, and makes Lola joke that he must be very popular with the ladies. But he responds that he's just trying to keep her interest. Ooh, he's such a flirt. In the end, he takes her handkerchief, even though it has Fennell's family crest on it. It's not like he can wear it in public, but it's still nice of him to keep it. A few minutes later, someone calls for Layla. As she starts to walk away, Mr. Bluehair reaches for her hand, wanting to ask one last question. Not about taxes this time. He wants to know if she has any intention of becoming an official. You know, like someone with a real job and title who helps run the country. She thinks he's making fun of her at first. It's not exactly a common position for a woman to hold. But as Blue points out, there's no actual law saying women can't do it. They just haven't been invited to before. And besides, he's not asking about tradition. He wants to know if she would take an opportunity if one was handed to her. Layla answers almost immediately. Of course she would. What woman wouldn't want the chance for a bit of power and some true responsibility? Sounds a heck of a lot better than sitting around a mansion all day throwing tea parties, don't you think? Blue Hair seems pleased by this answer and tells her not to forget it. They part ways, and a few hours later, our mysterious and very handsome stranger comes to visit a red-haired man who's drowning in paper. That's when we finally discover his true identity. Mr. Bluehair is none other than the new emperor, Callion de Zeppel Youthveldia. Okay, I have to confess, I kinda saw that one coming, but it still makes him about 1,000,000 times hotter than stupid Duke Fennell, and it means that job offer might have been genuine. I say Layla should ditch her dumb fiancé and go work for the Emperor himself. Who's with me? While Callion has been out chasing his new lady crush Layla, he left his assistant with an absurd amount of paperwork, and he is not happy. They kind of have a cute little dog and cat relationship, these guys, always teasing each other and pretending to fight. Although it seems like the assistant is only half kidding. He even asks Emperor Callion to fire him. That's kind of a mood, actually. It turns out the assistant, whose name is Bear, only has so much work because the Emperor trusts him more than anyone else. There's some work only Bear can do, and that's why he hasn't hired anyone else to help him. But at last, he has decided to add another member to their team. Bear is delighted to hear that he might have help, though he'd rather 3 more assistants than just one. He starts preparing to send letters to the nobles asking for appropriate candidates. But Callion doesn't want to do it that way. He wants to set a test, an administrative test, so that anyone with the right skills can apply for the position. You probably don't need me to tell you, but that's not the way things usually work in this empire. Amongst the nobility, assistants are recommended based on their merits or excellent results from the academy. The Emperor, however, wants his future assistant to be the best of the best, testing them in administration, tax law, politics, welfare, basically all the cornerstones of governance. Bear has practically given up on his new teammate already. Surely no nobles will want to work that hard just to earn a position as the Emperor's assistant. As if that wasn't enough, Callion also instructs him to clearly announce that women are also eligible for the role. Now that will really send their heads spinning. Before they can even think about the test, the boys have to get through the coronation banquet. As with all fancy affairs, it takes place over 2 days, which I never understand. Wouldn't you get bored of all the faces and food after one day? I mean, think of the introverts! Luckily, Layla is only participating on one day, as it turns out women are only invited for one of these days. Which probably isn't a good thing since the girls in this empire seem to be obsessed with one thing and one thing only: gossip. Ever since the handkerchief incident, Layla and Fennel haven't spoken a word to one another. But we're not thinking about him. Today is all about Layla. She's all geared up for her main character moment. I almost hope people do spend the whole evening staring, cause she looks gorgeous in that silver dress. Once her hair and makeup is done, our beautiful protagonist is heading downstairs to meet her fiancé when tragedy strikes. From out of nowhere, someone throws some kind of liquid all down her perfect dress. I'll give you 3 guesses who that was. At this point, I seriously would have slapped her, but Layla is already on thin ice. One more argument with Cicely and Fennel really might kick her out. She ignores the stupid princess and asks her maid Sarah if they have any spare dresses with them. There's no time to change her makeup or accessories, so whatever she ends up wearing probably won't match the outfit. Which is also annoying because she was meant to be matching with Fennel. Although actually, I don't mind if that's the bit that doesn't work out. While the maids search for a similar design, she orders the butler to let the Duke leave first and heads back into her room, not bothering to hear out Cicely's pathetic excuses. Callian, who is waiting eagerly at the palace, is surprised to see Duke Willio arrive without his fiancée. He knows immediately that something is up and orders Bear to postpone the banquet. See, ladies, if he wanted to, he would. While we wait to see how Layla has salvaged her dress situation, we get a bit of context from Callian's perspective on Layla. He's known about her for a long time. Coming from a small provincial family and marrying the future Duke Willio gave her a bit of a reputation, you see. There are all sorts of horrible rumors about her, mostly because of the special treatment she got from the former Duke and Duchess. After their death, people swarmed the Willio family, trying to take advantage of their land and wealth, knowing that the new Duke would be too young and inexperienced to hold down the fort. But to everyone's surprise, he did. Or that's what it looked like, at least. When his curiosity was piqued, the Emperor did some digging into the young Duke Willio and discovered who was really running the show. That's when he found Lady Thebesa. He was shocked by her potential, and now meeting her in person has only made him more certain. She should be allowed to thrive, put somewhere where her talent can grow. Back to the present moment, Bear is insisting they start the banquet celebrations, but Callian is still hung up on this Wonder Girl. He's worried that something serious might have happened. Why else would she not attend such an important social event? Even though his assistant is ordering him to go downstairs and start the event, the Emperor stubbornly insists. He will not move until Layla Thebesa shows up. Ladies, is your man even your man if he wouldn't delay an entire banquet for you? Meanwhile, Layla has finally changed into another dress and is sitting anxiously in the carriage on her way to the palace. It took a lot longer than she expected, and now she's freaking out. To arrive after the Emperor is just about the worst thing a guest can do. So imagine her relief when she finds out the banquet hasn't started yet. Her relief is short-lived, however. As usual, Fennel comes to ruin the moment, immediately scolding her for being late. She starts to apologize, not even bothering to explain what happened with Cicely, as if he would listen anyway. Then she trails off, noticing the handkerchief in his pocket. Is it hers? No, it looks too old to be the one she stitched. Fennel sees her looking and explains that it was given to him by his mother some time ago. He didn't want people seeing his empty pocket and gossiping about him, or her, he adds. Layla is a little touched, and just hearing about the Duchess softens her anger a little. They both get a little somber after that, and Fennel offers her his arm. They almost look like a real couple for once. Almost. A few moments later, the trumpet fanfare sounds and the Emperor's arrival is announced at last. When the doors open, Layla is speechless. I guess she didn't get the hints like the rest of us did. Callian looks ethereal, positively glowing in his deep blue outfit and cape. It's only now that Layla remembers his clue about his hair and eye color, the trademark of the imperial family protected in legend by the blue dragon. I guess since the Empire was at war for so long, people forgot about their prince. She feels a little ashamed for not having realized sooner and gets lost in her thoughts. She only looks up when Fennel catches her attention. He was clearly trying to say something, but changes his mind. This man is literally such a teenager. Emperor Callian addresses his guests with a warm welcome speech, confident from start to finish. He was literally raised for the throne, but still it's clear that he's a natural-born leader. Once he raises a toast to the Empire, the banquet can finally begin. The musicians start up a tune, and the Emperor leads the first dance with a relative. His mother, I'm guessing. Fennell asks Layla to dance as well. Not out of romance, but because they need to put on a good show for the other nobles. As usual, poor Layla is a nightmare on the dance floor, but she does her best. At least Fennell is being sociable for once. He even compliments her dress, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. On one hand, he thinks she looks nice. On the other, it's obvious he doesn't remember the original matching outfits they planned because, of course he doesn't. She walks off the dance floor trying to cover her disappointment. A young lady named Marchioness Marissa appears, followed by a whole host of girls who are clearly interested in Layla. They mostly seem friendly until a red-headed woman named Countess Byzantine ruins the atmosphere with just one comment. It was only a matter of time until someone brought up the affair, I suppose. Sophia Byzantine was also a candidate for the position of Fennell's wife once upon a time. She was the natural pick, being from a much better family than Layla. Everyone thought she was the one the Duke and Duchess would choose. When Sophia found out it was Layla, she totally lost it. She slapped her across the face, accusing her of winning the Duke over with foul play. Of course, no one ever found out what Sophia did. Layla's own parents were happy with a hefty bribe from her family to keep quiet. In the end, it looks like Sophia did far better with her choice of husband than Layla. She tells the entire story of Fennell's adultery to the other noble girls, and even dares to say that Cicely is from better blood than Layla. Jeez, what a bully! In a weird way, all that bickering with Cicely has prepared her well for this. Layla calmly claps back, showing that she's not shaken by such silly taunts. It's only when she steps outside for a breath of fresh air that she allows her shoulders to slump. She's just saying how she wants to go back to the Willio mansion when the man of the night appears. She greets him politely, which takes him a bit by surprise. Things feel so formal now she knows his status. He asks what she was doing outside, if she was finding the banquet uncomfortable. Of course she was finding it uncomfortable, Your Majesty. She's a girl in a corset and a pair of heels. But Callian can tell it's more than just her outfit that's making her shake. He grabs her hand and pushes her onto a bench, not wanting her to bear the discomfort just because she's in front of the Emperor. He really is a gentleman through and through. He starts complaining about the banquet, joking that he'd rather be doing paperwork than talking to all these stuffy nobles. Can he say that? I feel like he can't say that. But at least he feels more human now, and Layla is grateful they're on the same page. He catches her staring and jokes that he must be looking particularly ugly today, which is hilarious. How could a guy like him ever wake up looking ugly? Layla can't help but laugh, and he perks up after seeing her smile. She keeps thinking that he's making fun of her until he earnestly says he likes her, which, of course, she doesn't believe. Uh-oh, we've got an oblivious protagonist on our hands. Looks like this is gonna be a slow burn, guys. No matter how much he compliments her, Layla just won't take him seriously. When the time comes for Callian to leave, she trips, falling at just the right angle for the Emperor to catch her graciously in his arms. He really doesn't miss a trick, does he? She's barely recovered from the whole interaction when Fennell comes storming out from the ballroom and grabs her by the shoulders, accusing her of cheating on him. Oh, here we go. Firstly, who gave him the right to accuse her of anything? And secondly, how the heck does he think meeting someone on a balcony is equal to getting another woman pregnant? Seriously, can we get a brain scan on this guy? Oblivious, Layla has no idea what he's talking about and shrugs him off. She tries to explain that she only tripped into Callian's arms, but he won't believe it. Mainly because he saw her smile at him. Way brighter than she ever did with Fennell. Yeah, maybe because he actually treats her like a human and hasn't broken a sacred vow of engagement by bringing a mistress into their lives. I'm starting to think this dude is actually insane. She reminds him that he's given her nothing to smile about since Cicely arrived. Fennell once again promises to kick her out as soon as the baby is born, which is kind of ironic since we know he promised the exact same thing to Cicely. Layla tells him she can't trust that or anything he says. If he wants to earn her trust back, he'll need to do something to prove it. The words have barely left her mouth when Fennell grabs her, pulling his fiancé back into the ballroom in front of the Emperor. Right then and there, in front of all the guests, he asks for permission to get married. But Callian refuses. For a moment, things are very tense until Layla steps forward to clean up her fiancé's mess, as always. There's a custom that says no nobles can get married within a few months of a big imperial ceremony. Of course, they don't intend to go against that ancient custom. They just wanted approval to get married within the year. That's what she tells him with her best fake smile. Still, the Emperor has a lot on his mind at the moment, given that he's only just had his coronation. So he asks for a month to think about it. Just enough time for her to take the assistant's exam and turn her whole life around. How convenient. On the way home, Fennel somehow finds a way to be offended by her display at the palace, even though she saved his dignity and both their reputations. As soon as they get home, he rushes towards Cicely like a long-lost lover. Was this the guy who said he'd prove himself trustworthy? His personality just did a complete 180. The next day, Layla is hard at work taking care of the Duke's estate, even skipping meals to make sure she gets everything done in time. To her surprise, Cicely makes a visit. Not to chat or try and bond with her or anything. Of course not. It's because she needs a favor. She wants Layla to buy some baby clothes and toys before they leave the capital. So this is how she does it. She's just going to keep finding new ways of twisting the knife, isn't she? As if that wasn't rude enough already, she basically calls Layla a handmaiden, saying she'll have a duty to raise and take care of her kid one day. Layla's had just about enough of this and cuts through the fakeness, telling Cicely to get out. She's not a princess anymore. The only reason she's treating her with any respect is because she's carrying Fennel's baby. Despite all that, she promises to treat Cicely as well as she can until she gives birth. So the least she can do is give her some space. Since Cicely isn't moving, Layla heads for the door, getting in one last jab as she leaves. Clearly, Fennel never told Cicely about his intention to throw her out after the baby was delivered. Judging by the look on her face, this is about the worst news she could have heard. But Layla doesn't care. She still has so much work to do. She's still trying to get through all those documents when she dozes off. A few hours later, she's awoken by a loud slamming of the door. I guess someone heard about her little run-in with Cicely. Phelan barges in angrily to confront Layla about Cicely, but instead of constructively criticizing or properly assessing the situation, he berates the former and blindly sides with the latter. Having had enough of this unjust treatment, she ultimately decides to quit working for the Duke for good. After all, her work is supposed to be the work of the Duchess, but since Phelan made it clear that she isn't one, she has even more reason to completely abandon her duties, despite the love the William family has shown her. He isn't the least bit threatened or scared by this news. If anything, he takes it as a challenge. Meanwhile, Layla simply doesn't care anymore and just wants to leave promptly. Upon leaving, Sarah hands her a letter, but she refuses to accept it if it concerns work, stating that from now on, all work must be given to the Duke instead of her. After she leaves, Phelan quickly looks over all the work he now has to do. Upon closer inspection, he realizes that Layla isn't as smart as she thinks she is. As he finishes reviewing all the things she has managed over the past few years, he becomes determined to do it all by himself so that Layla can no longer look down on him. Phelan decides to visit the book room to review the works of the previous Duke, needing this as a reference for when he takes over Layla's work. Suddenly, Cicely arrives clinging to him, delaying his duty so they can flirt with each other. However, she seemingly has some ulterior motive as she looks at the documents Phelan is working on. She then asks him to agree to a favor because it concerns the baby she's conceiving. The following morning, Layla doesn't know what to do with the free time she now has since she no longer has any work to do. She eventually decides to read a book and head to the book room, but the butler informs her that Phelan currently has the key, which confuses her. This leaves her no choice but to give up on the book room, especially since she doesn't want to bother Phelan, who's most likely with Cicely currently. Shortly after, the manager calls her, informing her of an urgent approval pertaining to matters related to the rainy season. Despite her reluctance, she has no choice but to see Phelan. Upon visiting the room, Cicely is the one who opens the door, as Phelan is still sound asleep, but it isn't long before he wakes up and entertains her. Elsewhere, Bear asks Carl what he's curiously holding, to which he states that the handkerchief is beautiful. Bear mocks Carl's eyes for what he just said. After their quick banter, Bear shares the questionnaire he made in preparation for the test, but Carl tells him it's not hard enough. Upset, Bear asks if he really needs an assistant because he likes to give the takers a hard time. Carl claims that he already has an applicant in mind, but they still need to take the test. Meanwhile, Layla informs him that she's here because Wazard called her about the rainy season's expenditure. He replies that he'll look into it himself and doesn't need her help. She doesn't even get the chance to ask him about the key. Later that day, Layla receives an invitation that looks like it's from Count Byzantine. She wonders that there's no way he would invite her, so she immediately thinks it must be Sophia trying to exact revenge on her. Shortly after, Sarah informs her about Carl hiring a female assistant. Not wanting to jump to conclusions, she asks Sarah to look further into this. Later, when Layla browses for books, Carl appears out of nowhere offering suggestions. But this is useless because she has apparently read them all. He then tells her that he needs her help with something. Layla is confused as to why they're strolling through the bustling streets. Carl then goes on to buy seeds from a sketchy seller, but she intervenes at the last second. She tells him that the seller is selling quilt seeds, and they wouldn't live through the rainy seasons, deeming the seller a scammer. The seller promptly leaves afterward, but Carl makes sure he won't go far away. After that, he asks her how she knows so much about plants, and proceeds to give her seeds since she'll probably have more use for them. He then ominously explains that he needs to find a certain plant. Carl then asks if she can still help him with the plant he's talking about, prompting her to remember Phelan's words about him not needing her. She gladly accepts his request, causing him to become flustered. He then asks to hold her hand as they search for the plant. He wonders why she's so defenseless, especially since she doesn't know his intentions. What if he plans to use the plant to do bad things, like killing someone? But she impassively tells him that it can't be that because she doesn't see him that way. The reason Layla knows so much about the quilt seeds is that there was an anticipated drought back then. They discovered that quilts can be used during droughts and even grow well in deserts. Now, Layla is unsure whether she can really help Carl in looking for this certain plant because she claims not to possess enough knowledge. But he reassures her, saying that her knowledge is already astonishing and that her accompanying him right now makes him feel at ease. Soon after, he notices that she's looking at a beautiful necklace, so he quickly calls a staff member to inquire about it. The staff then demonstrates the amazing capabilities of the necklace, but the two aren't amused at all. Though Layla can't help but really admire the colors, she still feels some sort of familiarity with the necklace. However, she dismisses these thoughts, deeming that it's probably not that important. Afterward, the two call it a day, still not finding the plant after searching everywhere. As Carl expresses his gratitude to her for accompanying him, he hands over the necklace from earlier, shocking her. Though she's hesitant to accept it, she is left with no choice because he made it in imperial order. Shortly, Carl is informed that they have to head back now, which concludes their brief meeting. As Layla heads back, Sarah asks her who she was with, to which she replies that it was the Majesty, causing Sarah to be horrified. Apparently, Carl murdered his entire family so that he could ascend to the throne, but Layla thinks he's not someone who could do that. Upon returning to the mansion, Layla sees all the things Cicely bought, which makes her feel a little bad. Cicely is only carrying Phelan's child, so why is she allowed to buy things like dresses that won't even fit her because she's pregnant? She then asks the butler for the receipt, and upon checking it, she wonders how irresponsible Cicely is. But it's just not her problem anymore, so she's not even going to bother. Soon after, the books Layla bought arrive. Coincidentally, Phelan sees this and questions her. She explains that it's for the upcoming management examination. Upon hearing this, he makes a bet. If she passes the exam, he will grant her one wish, but if she doesn't, she must apologize to Cicely. Later that day, Layla is obviously bummed by what Phelan said, but she also knows she can't disappoint Carl, so now she's more determined to pass. Shortly after, Sarah informs her that they'll be staying in the capital longer than Layla anticipated, according to the Duke. Confused, she decides to confront him, but he tells her that she needs to come along to visit the territory, even though he doesn't want her to, because she's crucial in preventing any disagreement between the families and the wizards. Later that day, Phelan is bombarded with paperwork and is greatly troubled. Shortly after, Cicely arrives, offering to help him. On the carriage, Phelan wishes to discuss his marriage with Layla, but this only makes her uncomfortable because he wants to expedite the process. She then tells him that she'll prepare for the wedding herself, to which he mocks her and proposes that Cicely should help, since she is going to become queen anyway. This alarms Layla. Phelan promptly stops the carriage because he's upset with what Layla said, saying that it's going to be a foolish idea and would result in them being a laughingstock. He then transfers to the carriage Cicely is in. Seeing that he's upset, Cicely tells him that Layla probably thinks lowly of him, prompting him to decide to do something about it. She sneakily says that she will do the same as well. Upon their arrival, Wiseart immediately greets Layla and asks for her opinion about the preparations for the upcoming rainy season. But Phelan sees this and interrupts, stating that all matters concerning the Duke's work should be addressed to him and not Layla anymore. A couple of days later, Layla and Phelan visit the village. This is when he realizes that she knows more than he expected. Shortly after, a kid approaches Layla to express his concern, but little does he know that Phelan is standing menacingly just behind him. Layla clarifies to the kid that the lord he's referring to is the one behind him and not her, but funnily enough, the kid insists that she's the lord. This causes the kid's mother to profusely apologize to the two for the mix-up. Phelan then suggests that Layla should rest in the carriage and that he'll handle the rest of the business. Later that day, he returns to the carriage tired and soon asks about what she said before regarding Cicely. He decides to tease her, saying that he'd have Tevesa help her with the wedding. He then reminds her that he won't allow her to be busy with the management exams because she still has a job to do as his soon-to-be wife. He's right, though. That's what the late Duchess also told her. But when Phelan reminds her, she feels uncomfortable. A couple of days later, after a long day of preparing for the wedding with Tevesa, Layla is exhausted, but luckily she can now focus on her upcoming exams. After informing Sarah that she'll be heading to the capital tomorrow, Sarah offers her a strawberry candy, prompting Layla to remember what Carl said about strawberry candies. Soon after that, Layla goes to bed since she has to be up early tomorrow. But in the dead of night, she is awakened by the loud rain, marking the beginning of the rainy season. Layla decides not to push through with their journey to the capital because of the heavy rain. She's just being cautious since, apparently, the former Duke and his wife died when their carriage slipped due to the rain. Now she just has to wait until the carriage is able to go despite the lost time, because it can't be helped. Later that day, Layla receives news that the riverbank has been destroyed, so she has no choice but to intervene and make the decision herself due to Phelan's incompetence. She then commands all the officials and servants to mitigate the casualties of the flood. As a result, the people of the duchy are now safe and are very thankful for Layla's quick action, while rumors spread about how Phelan's incompetence caused the bridge to break. Phelan hears this news, becomes infuriated, and curses Layla. Meanwhile, Layla reviews the recent changes in the documents, but Wizard can't close anything because Phelan has deemed it so. Upset with the changes, she decides to address this directly with Phelan. Layla approaches Phelan about matters concerning the preparations for the rainy season, but it falls on deaf ears because he instead threatens her. If she interferes with the Duke's affairs once again, especially when she isn't even his wife yet, then he won't look at her anymore. Later, Misa informs Layla that rumors have been circulating, hoping that she will become the Lord, making her realize that this is probably why Phelan was so upset earlier. She decides to focus on the examination instead, but a few days later there are no carriages or wagons left to use. Elsewhere, Bear informs Carl about the list of applicants, and upon closer inspection, he notices that Layla's name is not on the list. Though he wants to figure out why she hasn't come, it will be futile because the exam is about to start. However, he then decides to accompany Bear to the examination. As he sees the applicants, they're all men, so he wonders if that's why Layla isn't there. She probably thought women aren't allowed. Just as they're about to close the door to begin the examination, Layla arrives at the last second. All the applicants are surprised by Layla's appearance, almost causing a commotion. She also looks messy, obviously because she's in a rush. But this is cut short when Carl commands everyone silence since the test has already started. Shortly after, Bear tells Layla to be seated so she can begin her test as well. However, it's obvious that the negative gossip about her taking the test still won't stop. Not until the day of the results, when it's revealed that Layla is the highest scorer in the examination. Carl is naturally curious about what she wrote, and to his surprise, her answers are perfect. Bear is really excited about this, knowing that he'll finally be able to split his work. Carl then orders Bear to summon Layla, which he already anticipated. Shortly after, Layla and Carl discuss her late arrival and messy appearance earlier. She explains that due to the rainy season, she wasn't able to ride in a carriage. Luckily, there was a group of merchants passing by and she was able to hop in. He then asks why she didn't just ride a horse, but she claims she never learned how when she was young. He informs her that she's the highest scorer among all applicants, but she finds this hard to believe. After, he affirms that she really did it. She becomes ecstatic, knowing she achieved such an unprecedented feat. Layla decides to return to the Williams estate out of fear of Phelan. She is also unsure whether he would allow her to become Carl's assistant. Noticing her worried expression, Carl asks about it, and she expresses her concern. He then tells her that she should do what she wants and not ask for his permission, even if he is her fiancé. She then reflects on all the maltreatment she experienced with Phelan. As she finally acknowledges this, she apologizes to Carl and tells him that she will give it more thought. Carl then implies that he looks forward to working with her in the future. He also states that he will really need her help when the time comes, pressuring her a bit before she heads back to the estate. On her way back, she wonders how she will ever repay Carl for his kindness. He even let her borrow a carriage and clothes. As Layla finally returns, she is greeted by Misa and Sarah with utmost joy because they heard the news that she passed. Shortly after, Phelan arrives, but instead of celebrating with her, he greets her with an irritated expression. He even discourages her from becoming an assistant. An argument then breaks out and becomes heated between the two, resulting in Phelan casting her out. But Layla decides that they should just break up instead. Even though Cicely was in the picture, Layla never thought her engagement with Phelan would end up this way. Now, she is currently discarding all of her items, including the gifts from the late Duchess, which she had promised to treasure. Shortly after, a determined Sarah declares that she will follow Layla wherever she goes and doesn't want to be stopped because, like Layla, she also has the right to do what she wants. Layla expresses that she's unsure about this, especially since she can't pay her enough. But Sarah tells her that she's the one who wants to pay back because, long ago, due to Layla's kindness, she and her siblings didn't starve to death. Meanwhile, Phelan conceitedly thinks that Layla will crawl back to him. The other servants, on the other hand, don't know how to react now that Layla is gone. Shortly after, Cicely arrives, announcing herself as the new lady since the former one left the mansion. Cicely then sees Layla's luggage, which was ordered to be kept, but she overturns this order and asks them to let her have it. Meanwhile, Carl receives the news that someone will be coming. Bear affirms that Layla, who passed the exam, is the person who will be coming to the palace. Carl wonders how she is here so soon. Shortly after, she arrives, charming him as she greets him. He quickly offers her a seat, expressing his surprise at her earlier-than-expected arrival. Honestly, Carl is quite worried. Perhaps she's going to decline the offer. But this uneasiness is cut short when Layla tells him that she'll become his aide, genuinely warming his heart upon hearing this. He then hands her the Imperial card, which will give her access to the palace, and orders her to fill out the form from Bear, formally introducing her to his aide, Baron Bear Delronde. She then reveals that she will be working as soon as tomorrow and that she will no longer be staying at the William estate. But Carl senses that she's not comfortable saying this. Of course, he wants to figure it out. He then realizes that she's currently staying at an inn because she cannot afford decent lodging. Noticing that something must have happened, he offers her help, to which she's really grateful. Shortly, Bear arrives with the documents, and Layla gets to witness the casual interaction between the aide, Bear, and Carl. As they let her sign the contract, Carl orders Bear to figure out Layla's relationship with Phelan. At the William estate, Phelan and the other officials are meeting about the projected problems for next year. Basically, they need to hire a wizard, but Cicely is opposed to this because she's afraid of them. Even if it's the territory's problem, Phelan still discourages hiring a wizard because Cicely might see it and it might cause a miscarriage of their child. He then threatens everyone that if they dare to disobey him, there will be serious consequences. Meanwhile, Layla has just arrived at the house that Carl offered her, escorted by Bear. After showing her around the house, Bear asks if there's anything else she needs, making sure everything is okay. He tells her he needs to head back to the palace since there's still a lot to do. Upon Bear's return to the palace, he promptly informs Carl about Layla's breakup with Phelan. This makes Carl curious, and he looks forward to when she will tell him herself. Meanwhile, Layla is currently embroidering a handkerchief personally to give to Carl, and a few days later, she's still working on it. The past few days, she's been focusing on embroidering so she can give it to him as soon as possible. She then decides to attend to Carl early, but he still hasn't arrived. As she waits for him, she can't help but reminisce about the time she spent with the servants, causing her to tear up. Suddenly, Carl arrives, gently apologizing to a crying Layla for being late. Layla is ashamed of showing her vulnerability to Carl, who flirtatiously teases her but doesn't expect her to respond with such honesty, calling him handsome. This makes him laugh out loud. After gradually regaining his composure, he asks what brings her so early. She responds that she just thought he might need help with his duties. He then realizes that she could perhaps be a workaholic. The first task he gives her is to have breakfast with him, but she feels so tense that she's not at all comfortable, especially since she's so close to him. Shortly after, Bear arrives, and upon seeing Layla, he immediately feels elated, knowing that she'll be taking some load off his shoulders. Jealous of how close Bear is to her, Carl upsettingly orders him to sit down. As they eat breakfast, Bear informs Carl about one of his admirers, which Layla listens to curiously. This makes her wonder if they're usually this casual and chummy with each other, unlike when she was at the William estate, where the atmosphere was always grim. Though this vibe is unfamiliar to her, for some reason, it makes her meal taste a little better. Elsewhere, Cicely inquires about the vials she found in Layla's luggage. The vials that Cicely is holding contain medicine to help get pregnant, and the other is for abortion. This is revealed by the maid. Cicely then asks which one is which so she can use them for her schemes. The red one is for abortion, and the blue one is for pregnancy. Meanwhile, Layla is being toured around the palace by Bear, who is orienting her about the location and work hours. However, due to a lot of pending work, he can't guide her throughout the entire learning process, but she promises to deliver her work as soon as possible. After showing her office, Bear hands her a large amount of paperwork and gives her the task. Though some of the papers need to be delivered to the outer palace, Bear tells her she's not yet allowed to go there, so it would be best if he does it himself. She then tells him that she'll do her best to finish all the papers so she won't have to hand over duties to him. Upon hearing this, Bear leaves delighted, but as he walks away, he overhears some dukes speaking ill of Layla. This is the reason why Bear discouraged her from going out. It is then revealed that one of the gossiping dukes is Duke Giltian, a grandfather figure to Carl who is plotting against him. A few days later, Carl calls Layla's attention, telling her not to work too much because she has been doing overtime multiple times already. Though he doesn't mean to discriminate, he tells her that she shouldn't work too much because a woman's body can only do so much. He then gets preoccupied with some trivial or perhaps silly matters, prompting him to ask if he can call her by her first name. Later that day, a man named Hiltine, leader of the Crowd Knights, is summoned by Carl. He's an aloof man, with Bear only exchanging words with him seldomly even in 7 years. This worries Bear, as he thinks Hiltine might really hate him, to which Carl impassively agrees. Moving on with the conversation, Carl asks Bear about the ongoing investigation, which he agrees to before handing him another load of paperwork. Bear then tells him that Layla will be reporting to Carl tomorrow since he's going to be busy with the victory party. Bear notices that Carl has been calling Layla by her name, prompting him to bring up the rumors circulating among the nobles. Carl then indifferently orders him to bring all those who started the rumors to the labor camp, which Bear doesn't take seriously before he leaves. After Bear is gone, Carl quietly ponders that he should be more careful next time. The following day, Layla is finally going to report to Carl. When she is at the door, she is greeted by the Chamberlain and the maids. As the Chamberlain Rachel announces the arrival of Layla, Carl calls the both of them forward. Carl reprimands Rachel for getting Layla's title wrong. Rachel then promptly apologizes before leaving. After he leaves, Layla nervously presents her report to Carl. He asks her about her methods, and after carefully inspecting the report, Carl compliments her greatly for such an amazing job. He's about to ask her about the rumors, but stops halfway, leaving her wondering. She then tells him that she'll just approach Bear if she needs clarification before leaving. As she leaves, Carl wonders if Layla and Bear are really close, feeling a slight ache in his heart. Is this jealousy? Meanwhile, at the William estate, Phelan receives a letter about the victory party in 2 weeks, making him worried because he doesn't know how to prepare. It's always Layla who handles this. At the palace, Bear informs Carl about matters concerning the war heroes, but Carl redirects the question to Layla. She responds that prioritizing the safety and welfare of orphans is most important, as it will also prevent people from taking advantage of them. Acknowledging her vision, Carl assigns her the task of creating a report on this, though Bear seems skeptical. Carl, however, believes she'll be able to do it. Though unsure as well, Layla is determined to succeed. Ever since Layla was tasked with creating a report about the establishment of a new orphanage, she has been extremely busy, especially now that preparing for the victory party has become the top priority. At present, Layla and a wary Bear are occupied with the preparations. Supposedly, this is a job for the Empress, but since they don't have one, they have to do it themselves. Bear then slips and almost reveals a big secret, the reason why he can't have an Empress. Carl doesn't want to marry anyone, or rather, he can't. He stops halfway, realizing his mistake, and leaves Layla confused. She then wonders if having an Empress by Carl's side would be good for him, since someone as gentle as he deserves someone to rely on. As these thoughts surge, she imagines herself as Carl's partner and quickly erases the thought, feeling ashamed. Elsewhere, Phelan and the butler discuss his marriage to Layla, which he doesn't seem worried about in the slightest. He still thinks she's coming back. Talk about delusional! As the butler exits the room, he stumbles upon Cicely, who overheard their conversation. She's infuriated that Phelan is still pushing through with the wedding. At the palace filing room, Layla is busy searching for books that could help her write a report about establishing the new orphanage. Shortly after, Carl arrives to guide her to what she's looking for. She follows him to a seemingly antiquated part of the filing room. He then hands her an old box containing unclassified papers. These are actually his personal documents, and he's entrusting them to her. When Carl was young, he was often ignored. Perhaps it was because he was an illegitimate child. Layla ponders this and thinks that perhaps he has gone through the same harsh treatment as her. She is also an illegitimate child who is forcibly taken care of by the Countess despite her reluctance. But she has lived a miserable life. After these thoughts recede, she inspects the box. There, she sees a book with bloodstains on it. It's probably Carl's, and the written text contains agonizing questions he had when he was young. At the William estate, Cicely asks Phelan that once he visits the capital for the victory party, he should bring Layla back. She claims that she wishes to see her again because she is soon going to be the foster mother of their child. But, of course, these are just part of Cicely's schemes. Elsewhere, after Layla hands over the report regarding the victory party to Bear, he tells her to work on the orphanage report before it's too late. She then expresses her appreciation before leaving, causing Bear to appreciate her in return. It's revealed that Bear is no exception to the gossip. He's also a target, so being appreciated by Layla warms his heart. Eventually, he informs her that he's not actually from an aristocratic background, but instead of being looked down upon as he anticipated, Layla praises him for attaining his title through his abilities, causing him to perhaps catch feelings. But of course, he can't allow this to happen. At a different time, Layla is rushing to deliver the papers to Carl, but unfortunately stumbles upon a group of ladies and trips. Layla knows that she's going to be bullied by these ladies, so she takes advantage of the situation, lying that she'll report this to Carl since they ruined the documents. Not wanting to face repercussions, they reluctantly apologize to her instead. Shortly after they leave, Hiltine appears out of nowhere behind Layla to hand her the dropped papers. She then remembers that he was beside Carl at one point. She introduces herself, but the exchange between the two is super awkward. Still, he does introduce himself, albeit with a delayed response. Luckily, thanks to him, she's able to submit the reports to Carl on time. In the report is a proposed tax increase, which she is trying to justify, but as she is explaining, he notices a scratch on her hand. It's from her encounter with the ladies, but of course, since she made a promise, she can't admit that, so she claims to have tripped herself instead. Carl then apologizes and offers to treat her, but of course, she can't refuse. She lets him, but he asks her to pull up her dress, flustering them both. Of course, he didn't mean it that way, so she understood. However, Carl gets upset because she never knows when someone actually means something and has bad intentions. He then tells her to leave and treat her wounds because he can handle the rest of the reports himself. But before leaving, Layla has something to tell him first. Layla shyly approaches Carl to hand him the gift she prepared for him. She expresses her gratitude, though he thinks he didn't really do anything to deserve it. She then quickly leaves, nervous about whether Carl will like it or not. Meanwhile, as Carl opens the box, he can't help but smile and admire her embroidery skills. Later that day, Rachel asks Carl if he will bring a partner to the banquet, but he tells him that he'll think more about it. More importantly, Carl asks if something has happened to Layla, but before Rachel can answer, Hiltine arrives. Carl then orders Rachel to leave, and after that asks Hiltine what happened. Meanwhile, Layla can't help but think about one of the ladies' words. She's a fake. Shortly after, Bear arrives, offering to accompany her to the office. She takes this opportunity to ask Bear about it. He explains that the nobles don't recognize her because she's a woman, but he reassures her not to be discouraged, which she greatly appreciates. That evening, Bear reports to Carl that Layla seems to be slowly learning about the rumors about her. Carl then proposes a solution to stop the rumors, even if it's just temporary. Carl and Bear move on to the discussion about the Nacha Kingdom. Bear presents the reports, and Carl seems shocked to see them. As the meeting concludes, Carl visits the aide's office since the lights are still on. He sneakily approaches Layla and notices that she's writing about parenting guidelines. He tells her that she should focus more on childcare, implying that her proposal is not guaranteed to pass. But Layla explains that even if her proposal doesn't get approved, parenting guidelines are still important. He then reminds her of the time, telling her she shouldn't overdo her work. Afterwards, he offers for her to ride in the carriage with him. He also takes this opportunity to thank her for the gift she gave him. Shortly after, he hands her a paper containing a list of ancient words and asks her to choose her favorite. She chooses the word Astera, which means star. Curious, she asks what it's about, to which he responds that she'll figure it out eventually. Elsewhere, Phelan is at the Gitlian Manor for dinner. The latter brings up their broken engagement as well as rumors about Layla being Carl's mistress. A night later, during a loud thunderstorm, Carl notices the aide's office lights are on again. He decides to visit but finds no one there. Suddenly, a loud scream erupts. Carl sees Layla hiding underneath the table. Perhaps she's terrified of the thunder, even though she's so wise and amazing. The reason Layla is so afraid of thunder is that she remembers the time when her foster mother and father died in a carriage because of a storm. To top it all off, even when she's afraid, she's always being criticized by Phelan. She is always alone, but now things seem to be different. As she gradually opens her eyes, she sees Carl, who offers his warm chest so she can calm down. She wonders if this time she can be greedy. Though she's kind of out of it, she still makes a silly request, asking Carl to sing her a lullaby. Shortly after, she falls asleep soundly for the first time in a long while. The following day, Layla wakes up vividly remembering what happened last night. She regrets it, unsure of how she'll act toward him. But to her surprise, Carl is just sitting there telling her to act as usual. He then orders her to head home and get some rest. She can't help but agree, so Carl offers to escort her. As they arrive at her home, he notices a silhouette of a man standing there menacingly. It's Phelan. Phelan stressfully looks for Layla in her new home, upset that she hasn't come back since yesterday. Shortly after, he sees her with Carl, wondering if the rumors about them being lovers are true. After Carl leaves, Phelan decides to approach Layla, but just as he's about to go, he is stopped by Hilton, who tells him that he shouldn't wander around near her anymore. That's Carl's orders. Knowing that he can't beat Carl and that disobeying an imperial order would be detrimental, Phelan decides to retreat for now. He then leaves the premises defeated, unable to talk to Layla. Sarah informs Layla that Phelan was around earlier, prompting her to remember all the grim memories she had in that estate. With that, she never wishes to return to that place again. The following day, Layla feels uncomfortable with what she's wearing. They're about to enter the banquet. As the three of them enter, she stumbles upon her half-brother, Adante Tevesa. Everyone likes him because, unlike his father, he's not a gambler. She also thought she could trust him, but she couldn't be more wrong. Layla's experience with Adante was very bad, to the point that she was abandoned by the Tevesa household, but she knows she shouldn't let the past affect her current duties. Still, she can't help but wonder why Adante is here. Just as she's getting lost in thought, Bear taps her, asking her to go out to the terrace. Since neither of them has an aristocratic background, the two seem to get along well, especially now that they're not used to wearing uniforms. Shortly after, Bear leaves to get more champagne, and just as Layla waits for him, Phelan arrives aggressively, wanting to talk to her about her affair with Carl. Having had enough of his claims, she leaves him, but before she does, Phelan offers her an aides job back at the manor, especially since Cicely is now expecting. But Layla reminds him that they've already broken up. Phelan is very stubborn and doesn't let go of her hand, so she decides to enter the banquet and announce to everyone present that she will be formally breaking up with him. Of course, this causes an uproar among the attendees. Bear is also all the more worried because Carl is unfazed, even smiling about all of this. Upset, Phelan mocks Layla, stating that Carl's attention won't last, but Carl completely ignores Phelan and offers his hand to Layla. Of course, she knows that if she takes his hand, rumors would absolutely arise, but she has to because she doesn't want to be helpless anymore. Shortly, Carl grabs everyone's attention, marking the start of the ceremony, acknowledging Layla as his aide. Now that she's an official aide, she's also bestowed the title of Baron, adopting the name Aster. She then remembers the time when Carl showed her a list of ancient names. Later, Adante leaves the Williams estate since Layla has broken off her engagement with Phelan, and presumably becoming Carl's mistress. Meanwhile, the Guiltian and the other officials are racking their heads over Carl's recent decision to give Layla a title, but Carl is unconcerned because he's currently plotting something. Elsewhere, Phelan is enraged. He feels disrespected that Layla has thrown him away, so he decides to go to her. The next morning, Layla is still in disbelief, and now that she's a baron, she wants to start work early. Suddenly, Phelan arrives, threatening her to talk to him. Though she's not afraid of him, she doesn't want to create any commotion, so she decides to give in. Phelan apologizes profusely for everything he's done to Layla. Unfortunately, she doesn't buy it and refuses to return to the manor. Upset, he shoves her, asking her one last time. It seems like a threat. She still tells him no. Despite the love and care the former Duke and Duchess, as well as the servants, gave her, it's not easy to cut them off, but there's no other choice. Earlier, when Phelan grabbed Layla's arm, he sensed an eerie feeling. He realized that Hiltine was around. This means Carl really is protecting her. He's still upset that Layla disobeyed his command. Shortly after, news comes that Cicely is already in labor, so he quickly orders everyone to prepare so they can go to her. At the filing room, Layla is looking for something. Soon after, Carl arrives, asking if she's looking for any book related to women being titled. He then clarifies that she's the first one. Carl sees that she's visibly worried, so he reassures her, saying that he had given her a title because of what he sees in her, so she shouldn't feel pressured by the other nobles. He then asks if she has seen any book related to diplomatic disputes, to which she quickly hands one over. He asks if she's been organizing the data, to which she affirms. Carl then decides to look at the materials and is greatly impressed. The pirates of Khan and the navy of Natsha have been at war ever since, which causes a heated discussion among the higher officials. Since no one is saying anything, Carl asks if they have any concerns, to which they do. They have an irrelevant question, asking if he's really sure about giving Layla a title because frankly, for the other nobles, what she has accomplished is simply not enough. Carl then inquires what the officials think of the materials that have been prepared, to which they respond that it is amazing, praising Bear. But Carl clarifies that it was Layla who prepared it, not Bear. The room is met with deafening silence. As expected, they then say that this is not enough as well. Shortly after, the Duke suggests something. Later, Carl informs Layla that she'll be sent out for a diplomatic meeting. Of course, she is worried and unsure whether she's capable enough. He then tells her that she doesn't need to accept it, but he still wishes for her to do so. With conviction, Layla decides that she will attend the diplomatic meeting. Carl was asked why he listed Layla's name among the diplomatic missions, but all he ever said was this is an opportunity for her to showcase her skills. Of course, the nobles aren't happy with this, especially Giltian. He suggests that if Carl likes her so much, he should just make her an empress. But Carl denies it, saying that Layla is capable, and that's the only reason he's keeping her. Later, Carl and Bear discuss whether the decision to include Layla in the diplomatic mission is final, to which Carl agrees, saying it's irreversible. Shortly after, Hiltine comes to inform Carl that something is open. Elsewhere, Layla and Sarah enter the Nebaia company. There, they find an employee and ask if they know anyone named Kunira. Shortly after, Sarah is waiting outside for Layla. Suddenly, Adante appears, introducing himself to Sarah. Worried, she quickly bows her head, apologizing for failing to recognize him sooner. She then tells him what Layla is doing, to which Adante gives her a pouch of money as compensation. He tells her that it's Layla's birthday in a month, so she should prepare for it by then, and asks her to keep their meeting a secret. As he leaves, he wishes Layla success and hopes that he will also gain something from it. Layla finally meets Kunira, who greets her with high regard. He then asks what brings her here, to which she raises concerns about the Notcha kingdom. He then explains that Notcha is where they mostly export their goods, and most merchants conduct business there. After hearing this, she wishes to know something from him and asks a very restricted question. After the meeting with Kunira, Layla is worried that Sarah has been waiting for her. Just as she's about to search for her, she hears a familiar voice. Carl, and he seems to be in trouble. He's with thugs who are pressuring him to reveal his identity, and with Layla's quick thinking, she quickly hops in to pretend that they're a couple. He then takes advantage of the situation and flirts with her. Carl then asks if she can help him until then, to which she agrees with confusion. Soon after, the thugs tell them to follow them. They then enter a suspicious-looking passageway. They're in a black market. He then reassures a visibly worried Layla, telling her they won't be long, and it's not long after that she notices something strange. Layla sees children, some not even 10 years old, being sold in the black markets. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can do about it. Of course, she feels bad. At first, Layla was a bit excited to see what's inside the black market, but she never expected to see child slaves. Shortly after, they see an old lady merchant who seems to recognize Carl. He then asks if she has any poison, prompting Layla to think that perhaps the plant Carl has been looking for is an ingredient in a poison. After discussing the poisons and gathering information, Carl decides to buy all of them. Afterwards, Layla wonders if he'll come back because he seems interested in poison. Shortly, a commotion arises because they've detected Carl's henchmen. Worried, she thinks they can't escape, but luckily Carl is able to lead them to the water duct. Still, Layla is concerned because of the pursuers. Carl reassures her, saying they can swim. Fully trusting him, Layla holds her breath until he tells her to open her eyes. They're now at the Imperial Palace. She wonders if he used magic, to which he affirms, reminding her that his family inherited the blood of the Blue Dragon, hence why their return to the palace was quick. He then shyly apologizes for dragging her into that mess, but she reassures him, saying that she learned a lot, albeit not all good things. She then decides to leave, but is stopped by him. Carl then ashamedly admits that he wishes Layla would stay, to which she agrees. She also wants to stay because she thinks it's because of work, but for some reason, he seems to believe it's for a different reason. After hearing her answer, he permits her to leave. Afterwards, he ponders why he caught someone like Layla. Upon Layla's return, she's greeted by Sarah, who shares that she's been escorted home by a cool, handsome man named Hiltine. Seeing her visible excitement, Layla asks if anything else happened, prompting Sarah to remember her encounter with Adante. Of course, believing what he said earlier, she keeps their meeting a secret. On the day of the delegation's departure, Layla enters her office to realize that Bear has already left for work. She then sees a report from Kunari from yesterday containing information that could be used during diplomatic talks. Later, Dylan Valder, Marquise Valdor's chief aide, asks Layla her purpose for the visit, to which she says it's about the diplomatic talks. He tells her the Marquise is away, so instead she hands him documents to be sent to him. But after she leaves, he immediately asks the servant to discard them. On the way back, Layla stumbles upon Bear, who worriedly asks if she's okay after she just went to see Dylan. Suddenly, a swarm of wasps appear out of nowhere, an unprecedented event, prompting Bear to quickly pin Layla to protect her. Shortly after, Carl arrives and sees the two. Carl asks if Layla and Bear are in a relationship, but Bear quickly explains that they're neither flirting nor in a relationship. He was just trying to protect her from the wasps. After Carl deals with all the wasps, he orders Bear to handle the remaining ones and tells Layla to follow him. As she follows, he asks if she's really not in a relationship with Bear, to which she affirms. Relieved, he then proceeds to explain why he called her. He wishes to discuss the child care center. After a while of their discussion, he asks how she feels about departing the capital soon. Though she still feels dazed, he encourages her once more before she leaves. After she leaves, Carl asks Hill Team to discreetly follow Layla and eliminate anyone who dares to harm her. Bear then confronts him, saying that if he were truly worried about Layla, he wouldn't have allowed her to go, but instead encouraged her. After dismissing Bear's question, Carl gives Bear Layla's pending documents about the child care center. They are temporarily given to him so he can work on them while she's away because, according to her, the children's suffering shouldn't be prolonged. Touched, Bear decides to start right away. Afterwards, Bear informs Carl that someone wishes to see him soon, and that person is also interested in Layla. Carl replies that it is not yet the right time to introduce Layla, which Bear understands. He then decides to leave, but before he does, Carl hands over another document containing the abolition of slavery. Elsewhere, Phelan arrives and is greeted by a devastated-looking servant who are having a hard time breaking the news to him. His child is dead. He is left in disbelief, wondering how that could have happened. It slowly dawns on him, and he promptly goes into a frenzy, insisting on hearing the news from Cicely's doctor himself. Later, the doctor reveals that the baby was healthy when Phelan left, but its condition suddenly worsened. He reveals that it was possibly due to poison. Though the doctor doesn't know who gave Cicely the poison, he is almost certain that it is the reason for her miscarriage. After hearing this, Phelan promptly commands all the servants who attended Cicely to gather. He then intimidates all the servants and promises a hefty compensation if anyone shares anything they know about what transpired. Then, a maid raises her hand and claims to have seen the head maid, Misa, carrying a suspicious-looking bottle. But the head butler tries to convince him otherwise. The thing is, Misa is nowhere present in this assembly. Shortly after, a servant arrives announcing that a vial has been found, to which the same maid who claimed to have seen Misa says that it's the same bottle. Phelan then orders the head butler to inspect Misa's room, but as they open the door, the stench of decay oozes out, and they find her lifeless body. As sad as it may be, rumors spread that Misa let go of her own life out of guilt. A few days later, Cicely finally wakes up and immediately asks about her baby, but Phelan's momentary pause and his apology afterwards say it all. Something has gone awry. The baby is dead. She then bawls her eyes out in Phelan's embrace and explains that the night the head maid gave her medicine, when she drank it, she felt an ineffable pain. After hearing this, he orders Misa's body to be thrown out to be fed to the ravenous dogs. After Phelan and the rest leave, Cicely finally wakes up, proud of her acting skills. She reveals that the maid who accused Misa and the doctor are her accomplices. She promises to compensate them greatly if she becomes the Duchess of the William estate. Meanwhile, Layla arrives at her lodging, but it seems there's a misunderstanding. There's no appropriate room left for her. Luckily, a Marquis arrives, insisting that she should take one of the comfortable rooms, persuading his companion Zephyl to take the shabby room that was left for her instead. Of course, Zephyl is not amused by this, causing Layla to think that the mission hasn't even started yet, and problems like this are already arising. Of course, discrimination against Layla just because she's a woman isn't going to subside. Men always feel superior to her, and although she has felt this familiar feeling before, she still can't get used to this disrespect. She then returns to her carriage, but can't even focus on work. Shortly after, she sees the seaside for the first time and is mesmerized. Soon after, she arrives at the Marquisate of Hutton. The Hutton family is a very influential naval family. Even the current head has no one second to him in terms of chart navigation skills. Shortly, Alder Hutton, the second son of the Hutton family, greets them. He then notices Layla and introduces himself. But for some strange reason, she feels a sense of familiarity in his gaze. It's similar to Adante's. He then explains to the Marquis that the family head is currently at the port for important matters. He welcomes everyone into their house. Before she enters, she is informed that she must join the dinner meeting later tonight. Afterward, a maid named Aria introduces herself and escorts her to her room. She offers to escort Layla to the port as well, since Layla seems fond of the sea, but of course she needs to ask permission from Marquis Valder. The Marquis seems fine with it, though this makes Layla a little suspicious. Still, she eventually leaves after giving it a little thought. After spending time at the port, she finally returns, but distressing news reaches her. The rest of the delegates started the meeting without her. After the meeting, Layla confronts the Marquis about why she wasn't informed of it, to which he responds that it's because she wishes to see the sea, and to top it all off, she was already informed about it beforehand. She then contests, saying that the information she received from Salmon was that the meeting would be during dinner, but the Marquis tries to gaslight her and in the end tells her she should just go back to the capital. After the incident, she isn't able to sleep. Shortly after, a messenger bird arrives, obviously from Carl. Though it's only a messenger bird, he is able to recognize her crying. He then reminds her of the words he said, that she's the agent of the Emperor, which means she is free to express what she feels is right to represent him. She cries briefly for failing this time, but now she's even more determined to make this a success. The day after, the delegates from the Notcha Kingdom arrive. A female delegate from Notcha, Diane Andrienne, introduces herself first to Layla. The two seem to be getting along well until Aldor, who is very rude, ruins the moment. Diane quickly reprimands him, making an example out of him. Seeing this, Layla is fascinated by how Diane carries herself, as a delegate herself. Meanwhile, at the William estate, a maid reports to Phelan seeing a similar-looking bottle containing the poison that she saw Layla holding before she left the manor. The delegates of the Notcha Kingdom discuss how incompetent the Empire has become, especially with how Marquise Valder has been acting. Well, with the exception of Hutton and someone Diane has an eye for. Meanwhile, Layla is still hung up on how impressive Diane was earlier. Shortly after, Arya brings a gift to Layla, stating that it's from the Marquise. As they open the present, they see a very beautiful dress, but of course, Layla is suspicious. She then confronts Arya, asking if the Marquise said anything else, but Arya responds with silence. Layla also finds out that the Marquise was the one who ordered Arya to take her to the port. Honestly, Layla sympathizes with Arya. She's just following orders because she has no power. Having had enough of the Marquise's disrespect, Layla decides to pour tea on the lavish dress. Then Carl's words echo through her ears, and now she's determined to act her role. She then enters the venue, greatly upsetting the Marquise. As the meeting is about to start, Layla sees that her seat is being taken by Viscount Malvin. She promptly addresses the matter by reminding him of her position, surprising everyone at the table. The Notcha delegates arrive, and Diane is surprised to see Layla seated. Diane asks Layla if she's going to attend the meeting in 2 days, to which Layla affirms because she's the Emperor's agent. Shortly after, the Marquise confronts her due to her audacity in inviting herself to the meeting when he has the power to choose who will attend. Fuming, he commands her not to attend the meeting, but she just asks if he's trying to disobey the Emperor's will. Diane's uncle then asks if Layla is the one she's had an eye on, to which she affirms, though he doesn't quite see it yet. He then asks why she asked Layla if she's going to attend the meeting, when it would actually be more beneficial for them if she came. She responds that she just wants a challenge. Meanwhile, Layla is once again hung up on how impressive Diane is, causing her to meticulously prepare for the meeting, or else she'll tear her down. Shortly after, a messenger bird she ordered arrives. She then talks with Carl. After exchanging pleasantries, Layla proceeds to ask how much she can actually do as she wishes, to which he responds that she can do anything. On the day of the meeting, Notcha states that the only thing they want is Khan's sovereignty. Diane then tries to justify how they are rightful owners of the land, showcasing their evidence as to why they are. Lastly, though they claim not to belittle the Empire, they propose that the Notcha Kingdom, which they claim is more competent, should take control. Shortly after, Layla finally speaks up, stating that Khan shouldn't be handed over. The room falls into deafening silence. Layla then promptly hands over some documents, which surprises Diane upon receiving them. Of course, the Marquise is confused and upset over what he perceives as rash actions from her. Layla finds this absurd. He didn't even read the paper she delivered to him. She then proceeds to explain why the Notcha Kingdom has no reason to reclaim their land, when in actuality, the Empire should be the one to reclaim Notcha in the first place. Pressured, Diane claims that the Empire had robbed Khan, which elicits an angry response. But the Notcha delegates add that more evidence is needed to back this claim. Having heard enough, Layla agrees to hand over Khan to the Notcha Kingdom, on the condition that trade will be halted until Notcha is able to resolve the problem of the pirates. To Diane's surprise, she never expected Layla to be this competent. Shortly after, Layla proposes an alternative. They help the Notcha Kingdom eliminate the pirates and create a trading base for Notcha to use, also adding that they will reduce the tax on export goods. The Notcha delegates remain silent, marking this meeting a success for the Empire. Afterward, the Marquise confronts Layla, asking if she just wanted to show off since she never told him what her plans were. She dismisses these accusations, claiming she did share a document and even handed it to his aide. He is in disbelief that Dylan didn't inform him of this. Later, Carl and Bear find out what transpired in the meeting and are greatly impressed by Layla's capabilities. Shortly after, Carl receives a call from Hiltine saying that Phelan is outside Layla's house, aggressively banging the door. Carl asks Bear to find a place with ample security for Layla in the future. He also inquires about the progress regarding the childcare center, which Bear claims is going smoothly because of Layla. After Bear leaves, Carl wishes Layla would come home sooner, as the palace has gotten quieter. Elsewhere, Layla and Diane are discussing tea. Diane asks Layla if she is really not going to partake in any future meetings, to which she just replies with a warm smile. Later, Layla is berated by an official who states that what she did was a disrespect to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The officials discourage her from disclosing what she did. Shortly after, Marquise Hutton arrives, asking if they can discuss something. He then expresses how grateful he is to have such a competent official in the Empire and encourages her to continue. Afterward, he proposes to find a suitable person for her, especially since Layla recently went through a breakup. After she leaves, Hutton immediately thinks of his son Aldor and promptly summons him. Layla is currently preparing for the dinner party, and suddenly she remembers the necklace Carl gave her and decides to wear it for this occasion. Shortly after, someone knocks at the door. It's Aldor. She asks for the purpose of his visit, and he immediately responds by handing her flowers, saying that he will be her escort. Layla promptly declines and shuts the door on him. With a menacing look, Aldor doesn't seem enraged. Rather, he appears determined to do something devious. On the way out, Layla sees Diane and can't help but be enthralled by her looks. The two then exchange pleasantries. Shortly after, Hutton greets them and asks Layla if Aldor is with her. She bluntly says that she rejected him, and Diane quickly saves the situation by telling Hutton that she applied to be Layla's escort first. But this is futile because Hutton still suggests that Layla have her first dance with Aldor. She agrees that it can't be helped, which confuses Diane, especially since she thinks Layla is Carl's lover, naturally leading her to blush. Layla explains that she's simply an aide. She then promptly leaves, with Diane thinking that Layla is only nice to her because she thought Layla was Carl's mistress. Layla then stumbles upon Aldor, who menacingly asks her to have her first dance. Defeated, she can't help but say yes. All throughout the dance, Layla feels uncomfortable. Afterward, Aldor insists on having a drink with her because that's what his father wishes. He then asks about her relationship with Carl, to which she claims they're just baseless rumors, which seems to greatly amuse him. Afterward, Layla feels dizzy from the drink and heads to the back door so no one can see her. She then briefly looks at the sea and immediately asks a servant to escort her back to her room because her condition is getting worse. Meanwhile, Hiltine, who has been trailing her, doesn't see her at the party anymore and becomes even more alarmed, realizing that she must have gone through the back door. Shortly after, Layla wakes up to a familiar voice. It's Aldor again! And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!